Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where we read surprisingly interesting stories that usually don't end in a cliffhanger. If you are new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right in. And the next one is titled, Superintendent of New Apartment said we are not allowed to walk on floors after midnight. So this kind of sucks. Me and my fiance moved into a new apartment 2 weeks ago. We are on the second floor, directly above the superintendent's own apartment. The super, when we met him, seemed decent enough, older French-Canadian man in his 70s. We told him we are quiet and don't anticipate disturbing him, which is true. We don't party much, don't blast loud music, we both occasionally work from home, but that just involves a lot of typing. On October 1st, 2 days after we moved in, he knocked on the door. I was at work, but my fiance answered and he said he was reminding us to drop off the rent check and also told my girlfriend to stop stomping around. She was not stomping, she was walking normally in socks. Now, it is true that the floors in this apartment creak a lot, but there's not anything we can do about it. 3 days ago, we were getting ready for bed when at 1 AM incredibly loud music starts blaring. There's no apartment next to our bedroom, so we knew it was not from there. At first we thought it was the people above us, but we soon realized it was coming from below us, the super's apartment. I knocked on his door and while he did not answer, the music stopped. Last night, same deal. We had been watching some Netflix in the living room and as we walked into the bedroom to go to bed, loud music again. We both walked to his apartment, knocked and he answered and promptly started screaming at us, accusing us of stomping around in our shoes. I explained we had not been wearing shoes, had been walking normally in socks and had even made a concerted effort to walk lightly after his initial complaint of stomping. He aggressively told us that we were not allowed to walk in our apartment after midnight. If he heard us walking, he would start blasting the music again right away. Then he slammed the door. I immediately wrote an email to the property management company explaining what had happened. While we really liked the apartment, this is no way to live. My job forces me to keep some odd hours, and besides that, I sometimes just like to stay up late. This man is not my father, I am not a child, he cannot set a bedtime for me. Being told that I must be in bed by midnight or he, an employee of the building's management, will passive-aggressively blast music and make sure we cannot sleep is insane. They have already cashed our first month's rent and we spent $500 on movers to get into this place. Right now, neither of us feels safe. This man has a key to our home and is unhinged. We are locked into a 1-year lease, what can we do? And guys, if you would be in the same situation, what would you do? Would you leave the apartment? Would you move out? Let us know in the comments. And a person in the thread comment said, you have the right to walk around in your own apartment at any time of the day or night. Call and speak to someone at the property management company, don't let an email be the end of this. Another person said, it is courteous to take off your shoes, as you seem to already do, to keep noise down for your neighbors, but the above is right. It is your apartment. I mean, a building can have policies like quiet hours are XYZ, but that means loud parties and such, not walk across apartment. And the next one is an update to the crazy superintendent story. Look, I know Halloween is coming up, so this will seem convenient, but this has taken a turn for the horror-esque. We sent a registered letter last week and did not hear back for a few days. Finally, the landlord calls me. She apologizes for the delay, she's been sick, blah blah blah. Anyway, I tell her how furious I am that she needs to rip up the lease and reimburse me for moving costs, that I will be filing a complaint with the Reggie, that I've spoken to previous tenants who said this was recurring behavior, etc. She weakly apologizes and then the justifications. The previous tenants were college students who threw parties, so his behavior was understandable, that he had promised not to do it again, that he said the noise has gotten better, that all of his references had checked out when they hired him. I stop her, tell her that his promises mean nothing to me, that his actions were inexcusable under any circumstances, and that the reason we have been quieter is because we are terrified to walk in our own home to the point of panic attacks, which is true. I had the third panic attack of my life a few weeks ago thanks to this jack-off. She said she will have to check with her boss, her father owns the building technically, about ripping up our lease, and she will call us back on Friday. Later that day, the old tenant we have been in touch with puts us in contact with one of his then roommates. It turns out we really have been getting off easy. According to her, he used to turn up the music and all the TVs he owned and would then go to sleep in a vacant unit, leaving it to blare all night. When confronted, he would begin screaming that they all needed to be punished when one of them begged him not to do this, saying she had a final exam the next day. He insulted her and refused. Oh, they also told me he had toy trains everywhere in his unit, which he had shown us when we first came to view the apartment, and also a life-sized boy doll that sat in a chair in his living room. This we did not see, but Jesus Christ, if he actually has that, it is beyond creepy. That is bad, but they told me there were people who had it even worse. They gave me the phone number for someone who had lived on the 3rd floor they had become friendly with and who had the real shit show experience. So I called her. This poor woman, she had been living in the apartment building for 3 years and said they had gone through 4 supers in that time. This guy was the last one and by far the worst. She had a small dog who had to wear little boots in the winter. She would leave them on a mat outside her apartment door. Never a problem until he got hired. He would scream at her that she was not allowed to leave them there. Of course, eventually they disappeared. So she went to confront him and he pulled out a hammer and started threatening her. Needless to say, we are now more than angry, we are scared. We have gotten written statements from all these old tenants about their experiences, and of course the landlord did not call me on Friday. So we are going to the Reggie first thing on Monday to file our complaint. I was hoping they would make things simple, rip up the lease and let us move. Hell, we have been apartment hunting and had found a really nice place. But we don't want to risk being sued by just unilaterally breaking the lease. Hopefully having an actual complaint filed with the Reggie and beginning the mechanism to pay rent via deposit with them will kick things into gear. I really want my next post to be the last in which we can all laugh about this ridiculous situation. As always, if anyone has any advice for how to speed things along, I am all ears. Sadly, the formal process for doing things seems to take a while. And a person in the comments said, "You may not realize, but your landlord has gone hostile. You made it very clear to them that they are shirking their duty and they responded by shrugging their shoulders." From now on, all communications with your landlord should be via email. Send an email summarizing the verbal communications to date. I said this on this date, you responded with that, etc. Ask them if it is an accurate summary. Take pictures of your apartment. Begin recording the super's antics. In other words, begin gathering hard evidence. And guys, I'm curious, did you ever have to deal with an insane superintendent? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is the third update to the insane superintendent story. I wish I could say this was resolved. We have explored a lot of options, including just leaving, but after consulting with some lawyers and tenants' right associations, we were advised that with 10 months remaining on our lease, they would likely sue us and could win. We have opened a complaint with the Reggie, but they are notoriously slow. I figure by the time we get a hearing, our lease will be up. In the meantime, things have been quiet. We have accumulated written statements and promises to testify from former tenants, but douchebag downstairs has not acted up. Until today. Both me and my fiance work from home. I understand daytime is somewhat fair game, but this guy was blasting Celine Dion loud enough to rattle the floorboards. After pounding on his door, he finally answered and essentially said the loud music is the same as us walking. In other words, it's punishment. I secretly recorded our conversation. Again, Canada is one-party consent. We have not had more than a few weeks of peace at a time in this place. The stress is starting to get to us, especially as this is a stressful time of year work-wise. Even worse is that after consulting with a lawyer, it seems we are stuck. Even if we found someone to take over our lease, if this guy acts up and we did not warn them about him, we could be held liable. Look, I know you guys have to give legal advice, and that advice is to follow up on the Reggie complaint, but we are desperate. If we just leave, what are the chances they sue? And given the long recorded history of his misbehavior with us and with previous tenants, if they did sue, would they win? And someone asked in the comments, why are you not trying to have him evicted? In my local, noise violations are written to the landlord and are defined by specific dB levels, varying with the time of day, while measuring from inside neighboring units with all windows closed. Blasting music will almost certainly violate your local ordinances, while walking will not. You can buy a decibel meter on Amazon for less than $20. In none of your posting do you say you have called the police. Call the police. OP answered, we called the cops a few weeks ago when he woke us up at 6:45 on a Saturday with country music. They did nothing. And another person responded, so keep calling every single time. And guys, what would you do to get rid of this insane neighbor? Would you try to get him evicted? Let us know in the comments. And the last one is the final update to the superintendent's story. It is resolved, effing finally. We finally managed to set up a meeting with the property manager and her father, the owner of the building. After much bargaining and some yelling where they accused us of having abnormally heavy footsteps and I said their employee had harassed us from pretty much the day we moved in, we reached an agreement. We will pay them the rent for December and drop our Reggie complaint, and they will tear up our lease. We will be moving into our new apartment on December 5th. My fiance has already asked our new, extremely nice and competent superintendent what kind of muffins he prefers, as she will be making him a batch after we are settled. As the manager was leaving, I told her that I bet this will happen again with the next tenants. I gathered the janitor is on extremely thin ice, as she said, I'm not doing this a third time. So douchebag F-face better be watching his back, I guess. Then we can forget about this place and get on with the ever increasingly stressful task of organizing a wedding. Sane while this shit show was ongoing. And by the way guys, if you have watched until here, you are a super ripe star and I really appreciate the dedication. And that is why I want to ask you, would you be interested in hearing some r/church drama again? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, I know that not everybody loves this subreddit. However, I know for a fact that many of my really old subscribers from back in the day remember this subreddit and really appreciate it. And the first one is titled Scotland. Guys, I'm about to be homeless, my house purchase is falling through and I don't know if I am being rational. Here is the situation. I had an offer accepted on our dream home in May and we put our flat on the market and had an offer in late June. We move out next Friday. My solicitor advised me that we needed to conclude missives on my sale before progressing missives too far on my purchase. In his words, accidentally owning two properties can be financially ruinous, and in any case, there would be plenty of time to conclude our purchase. The home report for the place we are buying notes that the attic had been converted in 2015 and we should confirm legality. This was not a full loft conversion with staircase and so on. They insulated, floored and drywalled but kept the pull-down ladder hatch and it is still marketed as storage. But most essentially, the engineer drawings and description of the work show that there were steel beams added, doubling up of joists and reinforcement of the existing Velux window openings in the roof, which also do not have building warrants or planning, but are many decades old. I should also note the engineer drawings show a staircase that was never built. The sellers say that building warrants are not needed for what they did. I genuinely think that they are being honest with me about this belief because their architect is telling them the same thing. On July 19th, after we sold, we asked them to provide a letter of comfort from Glasgow Council or a letter from a surveyor confirming their assertion that the work did not require building warrants. Because there has been structural reinforcement, we don't know for sure if it is exempt. Instead, they sent us a letter from an architect about planning permission this past Monday. We then offered to hire at our own expense a surveyor to visit the property and confirm no consent was needed, and they refused. We were offered title indemnity instead. My solicitor has said that he would not recommend title indemnity because we should not F around with structural changes to the roof supports. What's more, indemnity would prevent us from doing a full conversion of the loft in the future and possibly prevent a rear extension too. He also said that maybe if the work had been done 20 years ago when things were looser, it would be okay, but not for something done 4 years ago. He told me the reason this is so important is because we have no guarantee the work was done correctly. There can be huge liability if the council thinks there should have been a warrant, and if we sell in the future, we will be the ones in the crap for their work. Also, most crucially, our lender may not lend over the property with this kind of question in the air. The problem I have is that I'm going to be homeless with 2 cats and a crapload of furniture next Friday if this is not resolved. I think my solicitor is telling me to walk, and I am terrified about what to do next. I would give anything to go back 3 months and make this all go away. While I am not second guessing my solicitor, are there realistically any other options open to me right now? Are we being too cautious? I'm not capable of making good decisions right now, and I need a way out. Help. And a user in the comments said, I think your solicitor has advised you badly here, but I doubt there is anything to be done on that front. You should never have concluded missives on your sale without also being in a position to conclude on your purchase if you were not willing and able to go into temporary accommodation for an unknown period of time. There was really no danger of accidentally owning 2 properties unless your solicitor is seriously incompetent. It is unlikely that your buyer will be willing to delay unless they have somewhere else to live. So I think you need to start looking at storage for your stuff and a short-term rental while you decide what to do. Do not feel rushed into purchasing or walking away from the house because you are under time pressure. I cannot believe that structural changes would not have required a building warrant, but you could find this out for yourself by contacting the council planning department. By the way, do not mention the address or location of the property, frame it as a general inquiry and describe the works. Hopefully, the council will give you a straight yes or no, and then you can proceed from there. I don't think that taking the indemnity would preclude you converting the loft or building a rear extension, but you would need to bring any works that had been done up to current standards if you did more work on the loft. So, if this conversion is being marketed as adding value or making it easier to fully convert, I would not agree. I can understand why they are not willing to let you send a surveyor to look at it. To gauge whether or not the work has been carried out properly, the surveyor would need to expose beams, etc., wrecking the finish. If they've been assured they did not need a building warrant by professionals that they trust, they are probably sitting there thinking you are being very unreasonable and causing them a lot of hassle. But you are right to be cautious. The work could be absolutely fine, but at this point in time there's no way to tell. If you do proceed with the purchase, you need to be prepared to investigate and fix any issues with the work that the vendors have done, so factor this in and consider if the property is still worth what you have offered. Remedial works and getting all the required paperwork could be costly. It might be worth contacting a surveyor to find out what the process would be and if they have any ideas on costs. You could definitely have trouble selling in the future without sorting it, as buyers would basically be where you are now. Please don't panic over this. I know it is stressful and feels disastrous at the moment, but it will pass. If you decide not to buy the house, then at least without needing to sell, you are in a great position to snap something else up down the line. And guys, I'm curious, if you were in OP's, aka the author's situation, what would you have done? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is an update to the home purchase story. In case you were interested in the conclusion to the story, we withdrew our offer this week. We prepared for the worst by booking Airbnbs to cover us until the 31st and storage through our removals company. This situation was absolutely bonkers. At the start of the week, their solicitor implied to mine that he was not acting in our interests because we could be homeless at the end of the week. He told their solicitor that we had storage arranged and accommodation, so there's no rush on our end, and the next person in the chain was buying from an executory, so no rush there. She was annoyed. After having refused access for a surveyor for 4 weeks and with missives due to complete yesterday and us moving out that day, on Monday they agreed to let the guy in. They insisted we pay. This change of heart occurred after I phoned the estate agent and told them that this was really important, that they had done illegal structural work, according to a call from my surveyor, and concealed that fact, so I think they worked the sellers. He could not get out till Wednesday, so we proposed that the completion be moved to next Friday. They told us on Wednesday morning that they expected us to pay their moving expenses and everyone up the chain. We were already offering well over home report, so this was the last straw. We waited until after our guy left the property at 4:30 and then withdrew our offer. We told them that we felt that they were acting in bad faith and no longer wished to proceed. Minutes later, the estate agent called and asked me what the hell was happening. I told her that they demanded moving expenses on top of trying to hide an illegal conversion and making us pay to get our own letter of comfort. She was horrified. She said she had a call from the seller crying, saying that they never asked for expenses and just wanted to know what to do about the movers. I read her their solicitor's mail, which clearly stated her clients had instructed her to recover the expenses. She was aghast. She told me that a week earlier the next solicitor in the chain had asked if we should move the closing date and our seller said no, everything is fine. The agent said she had never seen anything like this before and has never seen missives collapse 2 days before closing. Meanwhile, we were viewing other properties in our price range and our story was beginning to spread around the estate agents in the area. We got a great deal of sympathy from them. One agent even put us in touch with someone who would take us and the cats in a short let. Not needed though, because the day after we collapsed the missives we had an offer accepted on a much nicer house. We have to couch surf and Airbnb with our cats till November. Our sellers now have to put their house back on the market and start over again. It cannot be sold as new to market and has to have a home report refresh. Their survey company and estate agents also now know that there is something up with the loft. They surely won't be able to find a cash/no chain buyer at that price point, so will probably lose the place they wanted to buy. They also will have forfeited the moving expenses they tried to recover from us. Thanks for your advice and for giving us the courage to do the right thing. We have been so fortunate to have a great solicitor and mortgage advisor to help us navigate this whole situation. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you would like to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripestories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.